Hi. First thing, I have a cold, so I apologize for everything. Anyway, Desi Lydic interviewed Ken Harbaugh and Sabastian Junger on The Daily Show. I've done a couple of videos, really raking her over the coals. But this one, really great job. She asked the questions I would have asked. I thought her delivery, her just whole matter, everything was perfect. So it's great to see that. And I've always said this, that The Daily Show can be great. And this was a great interview by Desi Lydic. Okay, but I had a problem, actually, with my hero, Sabastian Junger, what he was saying. So let's go to the videos.
Sure.
This movie scared the shit out of me. Was that the goal?
It's a tough time in America right now, and I think we all have to pay attention to whether we stay a democracy or not. And that's what the point of this film was, is to get us to think about that.
Yeah.
Disagree based on your own analysis. I disagree based on watching Restrepo, which I thought was an amazing documentary, and I highly recommend it, and by his book Tribe. And they even in this video say what I'm saying and repeating from them. But when they make it about Trump and they make it about politics, they're aggrandizing themselves and they are passing the buck on the issue. They understand better than anyone.
I'm glad you recognize that the vast majority of my buddies, my brothers and sisters in arms, don't go join the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers. But the ones that do, in many cases, do it out of a sense of needing to recapture that camaraderie and that sense of belonging that they felt in uniform. When you take the uniform off, that goes away almost overnight. And one of the things these groups do really, really well is recreate that by giving these veterans that sense of purpose and that sense of mission. The problem is that mission is undermining democracy.
Yeah, it may be undermining democracy, but the thing that's driving it all is that they have a need for camaraderie, as he says, and a sense of belonging. He says this, Sabastian Junger says it in his books. And, she keeps pushing on that question, like, okay, forget about Trump for a second. And by the way, the great thing, she doesn't say Trump, she says the former president, which, is better for the Daily Show. Anyway, but they both say the same thing, but yet they sort of reverse things. They say, listen, these guys really need a sense of camaraderie and a sense of belonging. And that's leading to, they're following this guy Trump, who's bad for democracy. And then they say, okay, well, how do we fix the problem? Well, we fix the Trump person, and then that will fix. Well, no, it won't fix their thing, right? You can get rid of Trump, right? It doesn't stop their huge need for belonging. They would just go elsewhere. So the root problem that they've pointed out is this sense of camaraderie that is missing.
I would say most of the guys on January 6th with the beards and the camo, the tactical pants, et cetera, might have been in the military, but probably never saw combat. And I think that makes them extremely dangerous because they have this sort of fantasy of themselves as a hero, along with probably some psych disorders, and that creates a very, very dangerous mix.
Yeah.
Right. That's the core problem, is they need a sense of belonging.
Well, you bring that up. Would you say that is it fair to say that in this country we could have stronger support systems for those veterans who are coming back and reintegrating into society?
He hits up. That's exactly the question I would ask. Like, you're saying that they need a lot of support, they need camaraderie, right? And she's saying, well, do we need to give them more of this? This is their opportunity to say, yes, that is the main question. It isn't a partisan question, Republican or Democrat. As we as a country, we need to give these people a better solution. Now, the guy, Ken Harbaugh, does go into that later, but for now, anyway, that was a great question she asked.
Yes, I don't think that's the problem here with these guys. I think they're sort of willing dupes of a dishonest ex-president, and they were they wanted to believe something, and they wanted a war to fight, and they wanted to act in a supposedly heroic way at a crucial moment in history and save the nation, except it's all nonsense, right? And but that aside, just generally for vets, absolutely, we live in an amazing but alienating modern society, and vets come back, and it's very hard to fit in. And frankly, it's very hard for all of us to fit in. I mean, the depression and suicide rate in this country is through the roof. Like, why would that?
He says that they're willing dupes. That's an oxymoron. Let me just expand that a little bit. What he's really saying is they choose to be stupid. So, I mean, can you choose? Would anybody choose to be stupid, right? Why would you choose to be stupid? So to me, this is a really poor choice of words from a guy that makes his living with them. Again, I can't say enough great things about Sabastian Junger, but for him to call them willing dupes, to use that oxymoron, no, Sebastian, no. You can't, you can't say that they're willfully stupid. I'm sorry.
You bring up the former president. He has certainly said some controversial things about veterans, somewhat disrespectful, some might say. He's asked wounded vets to not appear at his events. He's called American service members who have passed suckers and losers. Why is it that you find that your military brothers and sisters are coming to his side?
Bam! Great one, Desi. Exactly. Like, forget about Trump, okay? Because, as you said, like, he says all these horrible things about the military. So why would they follow somebody that says all these horrible things? Like, you're not answering my question, because she asked it before, right? Do we need more support? And then she's like, why are they following him? That's the big question. And they answered it. Again, they answered it. They said, it's because they need camaraderie. They need a sense of belonging.
We all know he has no respect for the military. He disdains the very idea of service. He didn't just call those who serve suckers. He calls those who died fighting for the country suckers. He called those who put on the uniform to serve their country losers. I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that every single veteran knows between now and the election just how disdainful of the very idea of service the former president is.
You see all the clapping. What are they clapping for? They're clapping because they don't want to look at the core problem, the number one problem that's driving it all, which is they need a sense of belonging. And instead, he shifted it to, it's Trump's fault, right? They're willing idiots following Trump, that they're purposely stupid, they're following Trump, and Trump's the problem. So they need to know how Trump doesn't like the military. And if they understood how bad Trump was, then they fix it. And this is a variation, which is funny, of the do not do drugs argument, right? Do not do drugs. Hey, you know what your problem is? You're doing drugs. Stop doing drugs. You know what your problem is? You love Trump. Stop loving Trump. It doesn't solve anything, right? And you can't do it. I mean, it's known that people can't do it. They need another solution, another option. So it just annoys me that, again, this is where I don't like the Daily Show audience or its approach, and that people clap for, blaming somebody else, in this case, Trump, right? No, Trump is a problem, but he's a secondary problem. I'm going to keep reading it. The first problem is many of our veterans, many people in our country do not have a sense of belonging. They don't have another option to Trump. As bad as Trump is, he's what's there.
But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to one-on-one conversations. It's going to come down to a family member who cares about a veteran who is at that crossroads between doing something noble like joining Team Rubicon and helping disaster relief victims across the country, or joining the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and undermining democracy. That decision often comes down to a conversation with someone who cares about that veteran.
I don't want to attack this guy because, again, I love Sabastian Junger, and I know that this guy, I keep blanking his name, Ken Harbaugh, has the right intention. But he has his head completely up his you-know-what. And, I know he has his head up his you-know-what because he's a Navy pilot. There's a joke about the military, right? You give, You give sea rations to a Navy sailor because if they fall out the ship, you're out of like a $10 pair of sneakers. You give B rations to an Army guy because if he loses his gun, you're out $200 weapon. And you give A rations, the best meat and best food, to a pilot because, they get sick, you lose $1 billion plane, right? So he's a Navy guy, right? He's in a total other socioeconomic class than most people that were in the Army or the Navy or Marines or whatever, right? And so he led Team Rubicon for a while. Now, Team Rubicon is a great place if you're like a Navy veteran, flyer, whatever. And you have money, whatever. You're in that socioeconomic class, and the weekends you want to go, volunteer and help with the world. That's great, but they don't pay a salary, right? They don't, they'll help, some travel expenses, but really they're not a place for a poor person that's easy for them to go to and get that sense of camaraderie. So, again, I like what he's saying. And again, they're both saying the right thing. The problem is that now they're getting into political politics, like presidential politics. They're aggrandizing themselves like, Sebastian and I are, listen, that we got to get rid of Trump because he's really, these people are following him and he's bad. If we get rid of him, we'll solve the problem, though we've said the problem, it won't go, we won't even answer the question if it won't go away. Well, that would have been her killer question. Like, okay, let's just say we get rid of Trump. Won't these people just go to somebody new? But it's implied, so it's fine. I don't mind that she didn't ask that question. And again, anyway, that was my take on the interview. Again, I was really happy to see Desi Lydic really give a great interview. And again, I'm sorry I don't feel so well. Not that you care. Anyway, till later.